right, two landmark social media trials are set to wrap this week. We hope this week, one in New Mexico and one in California. Together, the two cases could define how much responsibility these massive companies like Meta and YouTube bear for the well-being of their users, specifically kids and teenagers. Closing arguments began today in the New Mexico case. The case accuses Meta of knowingly misleading users about the dangers that lurk on its platform for kids. The suit was filed after New Mexico investigators created social media accounts posing as underage users. Prosecutors say the algorithm easily allowed those users to find child pornography and even people who were predators. Meanwhile, in Los Angeles, still no verdict in that landmark trial. The jury's been deliberating in that case against Meta and YouTube since March 13th. That's more than a week. The question at hand, are those two social media companies responsible for a young woman's claim that she was addicted to their apps and it led to devastating harm to her? Before breaking for the day today, the jury submitted their first question. They told the judge, quote, they're having difficulty coming to a consensus with one defendant and asked for advice about how to move forward. The defendants, of course, are YouTube and Meta. So just how close are we to a verdict? Might this be a mistrial or a hung jury? Joining us now are Nima Rahmani, a former federal prosecutor, and technology journalist Jacob Ward. Nima, first of all, what do you make of the jury's first question, finally, after more than a week of deliberating, that they're having trouble coming to a consensus on one of the two defendants?
Well, Elizabeth, I think they have reached a consensus as to the other defendant, which is certainly a positive development. Now, here in California, for a civil verdict, which is what we're dealing with, you only need 9 out of 12 jurors. So it is surprising that you can't get that consensus. Now, we don't have an Allen charge yet, which is what the judge will instruct the jurors. But here in California, it's a lot softer than other states. In most states, the judge will say something to the effect of, you know, if you're the minority, you should reconsider your position. The cost of retrial is expensive. But here it's a lot softer. And we're not quite there yet, but I expect maybe as early as tomorrow, the judge will issue a ruling saying that, you know, keep an open mind, reconsider your position, but don't change your mind just to reach a verdict. So again, not as strong, but again, as we progress, Tuesday, Wednesdays, Thursday, at least with respect to one defendant, Elizabeth, we may have a hung jury and we may have to do this all over again.
Jacob, why is it taking this jury so long to deliberate? Is the case complex, and do you have a guess as to which of the two defendants they are having a trouble coming to a consensus on?
Well, it is not at all surprising that it is so difficult to do this, Elizabeth. This is an incredibly futuristic issue, one that's going to set the stakes for generations of people. This is, I think, akin to, you know, the questions of whether or not big tobacco was liable for cancer deaths, and so, you know, with cigarettes, or whether car companies need to put seatbelts into cars. It's that scale that these folks are dealing with. You know, when I think about it, I think about the history, and I'm sure Nima would agree with this, right, is that there's a history in the United States of really being very good at regulating against financial loss and physical harm. We're good at money and death. We don't do behavioral harm very easily. That's a really hard thing. And so I think it's not at all surprising this is the case. Now, which of these defendants is probably the source of more difficulty for the jury? I mean, I'm just guessing here, but it's probably YouTube. YouTube comes up much less often in the testimony, comes up much less often in the discovery. You know, I think it's probably Meta that they are finding a consensus on, but I would imagine that YouTube, even though it is, you know, the biggest video site in the world, is probably the one that's a little harder to think about here.
Yeah, YouTube, the lawyers for YouTube argued in opening arguments, we're a streaming platform. We're more like Netflix than we are like Meta's Instagram or Meta's Facebook. And of course, with Meta, we've had years of disclosures and whistleblowers talking about the fact, and there were devastating emails introduced when Mark Zuckerberg testified showing that internal emails that people at Meta knew that young kids below their age level were on that site, and they were actively targeting and recruiting them, Jacob, to come on board.
That's absolutely right. I mean, there is this incredible amount of discovery. I mean, as a technology journalist, I have to say I was really looking forward, is a weird phrase to use, but it is. I was looking forward to January and beyond because we knew that discovery would give us this unprecedented look inside these companies and how they make decisions, how they talk about kids when no one is listening. It's that sort of discovery that really sort of has laid the groundwork for this kind of case. But I would also point out, just because YouTube isn't necessarily mentioned as often here doesn't mean that there isn't a tidal wave of civil action coming against them as well. This is the first of an estimated 1,600 plus cases. That's school districts, that's attorneys general, that is teachers unions, that's all kinds of folks coming together on this question. And so I think this is just the first gush of water from what is going to be a very powerful pipeline of lawsuits coming at these folks.
Yeah, Nima, I've spoken to several mothers whose kids have died. Either doing, these crazy social media challenges that were everywhere on Instagram, or because they were bullied and harassed. This case involves a young woman who says she was addicted to Instagram before, she was on it at the age of 9, addicted by the age of 13. And did all sorts, had body dysmorphia, was bullied, engaged in self-harm. Jacob raises a good point that often when it comes to these behavioral type things, these companies are trying to argue she had depression on her own. We didn't contribute to that.
That's exactly right. And Jacob talked about it. There's going to be issues of causation. Where were the parents? You saw the defense they put up in this case. But you're right. It's not just Meta. It's not just YouTube. I have 2 teenagers, and they're always on Snapchat. We know about those TikTok challenges. Those 2 companies settled. But this really is the bellwether trial. And regardless of what the jury does, we know that these companies, they're going to fight tooth and nail on appeal when it comes to Section 230. They're saying it's the content, not platform itself. So this will go up on appeal. We know it'll work its way through the California courts, and I wouldn't be surprised if this particular bellwether verdict, regardless of what it is, ends up in the U.S. Supreme Court because it is that important of a case.
Yeah, you want to know how these companies talk about teenagers when nobody else is in the room, Jacob? We read big business. They were trying to figure out any way they could to ensnare them and get them on their platforms. Nima Rahmani, Jacob Ward, great to talk to you both. Thank you.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.